God bless America. Hello, everybody. I am the Talk Radio Protege. This is the Protege program. Thank you guys so much for joining me. This is going to be a 2 bonus video day, so make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. You won't want to miss those 2 videos. I promise they'll be entertaining and enlightening. This video, we're going to be talking about the GOP primaries, the Trump voting bloc, and the Republican landscape going into the 2018 midterms, because the primary season, it kicked off yesterday in earnest. And I want to use those elections to springboard into a talk more broadly about the way that the 18 elections can go, the way that I think they're going to go, the way that everybody's talking about them going. So let's get right into it. I don't have any links for you to show, any graphics. You're going to have to do this research yourself, but it shouldn't be hard to find. I'm going to share with you all the names of the important people that you need to know. First off, we had the West Virginia Senate primary. This one was high profile a couple of days ago. You might have seen on Drudge Report's website that Don Blankenship was being heavily targeted by the president and by his Republican opponents in that primary. That was a primary for the Republicans who's going to be challenging the incumbent, a Democrat by the name of Joe Manchin. The Republican that won the primary was Patrick Morrisey, and on his campaign website there is a lot of conservative language and messaging, with one thing that I would call a minor red flag. I'll let you go and look at that and determine what you think about that. But Don Blankenship was a outsider. His support surged earlier this week, which prompted the attacks from his opponents and the president. He ran on Trumpier than Trump. I heard that he ran ads attacking McConnell, and from what I saw on his campaign page, there was no platform. It was just, I'm an outsider, I'm Trump, vote for me because of those reasons. And I would remind everyone that the candidate in a Pennsylvania special election from earlier this year, it was for a House seat. I think it was House Pennsylvania 20, but I don't remember. That candidate ran on Trump before Trump. Trumpier than Trump. I'm better at being Trump than Trump is. And that candidate also lost. He lost the general election. Moving on now, North Carolina House seat number 9. Occupied currently by Republican Robert Pettinger. The outsider candidate Mark Harris primaried Pettinger. Theoretically, that's the general election decided when the incumbent gets primaried by one of his opponents. Harris's campaign page is full of Trumpian and social conservative language. Perhaps Mark Harris is a clean Roy Moore. Mark Harris is a pastor from North Carolina. He's very socially conservative in that regard, seems to be outspokenly Christian, and won the primary in an age where the candidates that are embracing the policies, and we're going to talk about this later, the candidates embracing the policies of Trump and campaigning on those grounds, not campaigning on the grounds of I am Trump, those are the candidates that are winning. And Harris campaigned on the fiscal and nationalistic policy of Trump while talking about his own social policies. Mark Harris earned the endorsement of Sue Merrick. Now, you probably don't know her name. She was, quote, from her Wikipedia page, one of the most conservative members of the House while she was in office. She was a previous holder of NC 9, which is the seat that Harris is campaigning for. She won her re-election in 2004. The first time she won was in 94. She won re-election in 2004 with 70% of the popular vote. For comparison, Pettinger, according to Mark Levin's Conservative Review, is the second least conservative North Carolina representative of the Republicans. So Mark Harris seems to be campaigning from the other side of the Republican spectrum. Very, very conservative, socially, fiscally, and nationalistically. Indiana Senate seat occupied by Democrat Joe Donnelly, and the Republican outsider Mike Braun won the GOP primary. Again, Trumpian language on his campaign page. And then the last of the high-profile primaries from yesterday was Ohio. Now, this one stands to me as a little bit of an outsider. The incumbent is Pat Tiberi. He's retiring, and the candidate that he backed, Troy Balderson, was opposed by another representative from Ohio, Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan has a Conservative Review score of 96%. I couldn't find a Conservative Review score for Tiberi, but Troy Balderson on his campaign page had some Trumpian language and a lot of conservative language. So I wonder why there was a battle between Jim Jordan and Pat Tiberi. But again, a conservative candidate, or a candidate that campaigned on conservative values, won that election. Now, we're going to transition a little bit here to talking about the GOP landscape and the factions involved, and then we're going to bring this back around to who's winning these elections. So remember who won the primaries yesterday or who won and who lost. Importantly, conservative candidates embracing the platform of Trump are winning the Republican primaries. People that are calling themselves Trump and saying they are better than Trump are losing, like Joe Manchin and like the Pennsylvania Republican that lost. Now, the GOP landscape. The Trump coalition I describe like this. It's unlike previous GOP coalitions that have been put together. Trump brought back from the left the blue-collar working voters with his tough talk and action thus far to get the U.S. and foreign governments out of the way of those workers. He also brought in socially liberal, fiscally conservative civic nationalists. Now, that sounds like a weird hodgepodge, but this is a coalition that did not vote together in previous elections because you had socially liberal people voting with their socially liberal priorities, and you had and that was voting for the left. Then you had fiscal conservative and civic nationalists voting for, I would think in general for the right. I would think that civic nationalists, if they thought of themselves as civic nationalists first, then social liberals, then fiscal conservatives, that they would vote for the left. And I think that Trump brought the people that thought of these three things as their top priorities, he brought them all under his fold, into his coalition. He forced old guard conservatives to vote for him out over the Supreme Court. A lot of old guard conservatives think of themselves as number one social conservatives. Everything else really somewhat falls by the wayside. And if you're not if you haven't always been a conservative, you can't be trusted. So those conservatives had to vote for Trump over the Supreme Court. And then from the rest of the Republican Party, I call them the establishment, that he faces varying levels of opposition from the establishment Republicans. That would be establishment conservatives, the think tank conservatives, establishment liberal Republicans, people like that. This coalition of Trump supporters, the old guard conservatives, the socially liberal, fiscally conservative civic nationalists, and the working class, they evidently, from what we've been seeing so far in primary elections and general elections where the Republicans have won, they want candidates who support the fiscal and nationalist goals that Trump wants, and they reject candidates that call themselves better than Trump. Like Pennsylvania 20, I think it was Pennsylvania 20. It was a Pennsylvania special election from earlier this year that the Republican lost. West Virginia, where a hard outsider Trumpier than Trump candidate lost the primary, and where Roy Moore is a very special case. But Roy Moore was rejected by the people at large of Alabama in the general election. Now, factions. There are, in my opinion, as far as the current power players in the GOP landscape, there are two factions. There's kind of a shadow faction, that's the establishment Republicans. You all know what they're about. But the big power players, the people that are winning elections right now in the GOP, they're the people that I call the conventional Republicans. They want candidates and the president to talk and act like they're political heroes. Conservatives, neocons, and establishment Republicans alike fall into this faction. People like Ben Shapiro fall into the faction of conventionals. Ben Shapiro talks all the time about the kind of president he wants Trump to be. That's a conventional. Same with people like Jeff Flake, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, establishment liberal Republicans. They want Trump to act the way their political heroes did and do. And then there are the Trumpists. Two factions, conventionals and Trumpists. We talked about conventionals. Trumpists want Trump to pursue the agenda that he campaigned on in his campaign style. Some of the conventionals want Trump to compromise on his campaign promises. Some of them don't. Some of them want him to do the things he said he would do, just in a different way. And these two factions clash frequently, usually over the style in which Trump does things, sometimes over the policy that Trump wants to implement, like tariffs. I would say all of the conventionals clash with all of the Trumpists over tariffs. The conventionals don't want tariffs, the Trumpists do, and it's mostly the working class of Trumpists that want the tariffs. All of the conventionals don't want the tariffs. Most recently, the Trumpists and conventionals clashed over the Kanye West incident. Now, bringing this all together, considering the people that are winning elections and thinking about the factions that exist in the Republican Party right now and the coalition that the president has put together, who is winning? In general, conservatism is winning. From the first special election in Montana, way back in the early part of 2017, all the way to these primary elections, in general, conservatism is winning. And it doesn't surprise me that conservatism is winning. It forms the core of a lot of Trump's platform. There are a few elements of Trump's platform that I think a lot of his voters kind of hold their nose and swallow. But the candidates that they're getting the chance to vote for in these special elections and primaries, some of them don't have those issues that they have to hold their nose on and swallow. Some of them, the more active Trump voters, those pieces of Trump's coalition, are voting for candidates that would oppose some of those hold your nose and swallow issues, which makes me say conservatism and not Trumpism is winning. If Trumpism was winning, then the candidates that are saying I'm more Trump than Trump is would be winning, but they are not. The conservatism and conservative elements of Trump's platform are winning, not Trumpism. This is a little bit different style of a video that I've been doing, but let me know what your thoughts are. If you enjoyed, let me know in the comments. Leave your thoughts if you didn't. Hit the bell if you liked this video. Hit subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so that you don't miss a single video. 2 bonus videos coming tonight. They will be entertaining and enlightening. You will enjoy them. I hope that you'll come back and join me, but if you don't, that's okay too. If this is the last video you watch today, have a great night. If you're coming back for the next videos, then I'll see you in a little bit. Until next time, good night, have a great time, and God bless.